such a time as this.
And we are live. We are live. Such a time as this round table. The topic, open up our country. Open up our country.
We're ready.
We're ready. Let me introduce the round table. This tonight, I've got Abigail Ruth here. Say hello, Abigail.
Hello.
I have Professor Eric.
Good evening.
And Prof. Lisa Joy. Hello, Prof. Lisa Joy.
Everybody's
I don't
a
want to
prof.
be a prof. This is Lisa Joy, though.
It's just everybody's a prof. But anyway,
Unless you're Peanut Gallery, but he's not
Peanut
here
Gallery,
tonight.
but
You don't want to be
so-
that either.
here's what happened. We had a subscriber who actually asked me a question, and it was so good. It got us thinking so much that I had to do a show on it. So Corky,
Euphoric.
oh, that's how it is. Okay, got it. Corky Euphoric. She has this. Thank you, Corky Euphoric. 2 days ago, she put this. She said, I support. Let me put it where it's nice. Okay, it is. I support our president. However, he makes me nervous at times when he does things like tweet "liberate a state," which seems like an encouragement to rise to rebellion. I don't understand his thoughts on this. I would sure like. I would sure. What is going on? I'm sorry. I would sure like to hear your thoughts on this. Your videos help me to calm down, Pastor. I'm not sure this video is going to help you calm down.
Boy, I'm not calm. I mean, I am, but I'm not.
I'm not sure because Corky Euphoric, these are some very trying times. And look, we'll go around. I'll start off and I'll say this. And then I'll play a clip of the governors responding to our president and his wonderful tweets. I will say this. I said this after. Wait, where exactly did I say this? I said this after the Russian thing came up. When the Russian thing came up, and there was really no evidence for what they did. I said it then. This was an open coup. Mm-hmm. It was a coup attempt. Mm-hmm. And I said whether people want to believe it or not, accept it or not, I think at some point we're in a civil war. Mm-hmm. Shots were not fired. Bullets were not fired as yet, but I thought at some point we were at a we were at a point with civil war. When you have an open coup, you know what happened back in the ancient days when you had an open coup? Those who failed died. Mm-hmm. But this was an open coup, I thought, and wow, it just went from the Russian stuff to the telephone stuff. Now we're here with the governors. I believe one governor today said that unless the federal government bails them out, he's not opening up. You have the president and the Speaker of the House trading barbs on Twitter, saying they're both weak leaders. The president and the person 2 heartbeats away from the president are an open, what do you want to call it, hostility towards one another?
That's a good one.
And so here we are now. Governor's saying they're going to shut this puppy down for a long time. And I'm sorry, Corky Euphoric, but these are some rough times going on. I'm not sure where we go from here. Prof. Abby, what do you have?
Well, so for Corky, I would just like to say that if this is the end times and Jesus is coming soon, then this is great news. I mean, it's awful, but it's wonderful news. Maranatha. Mm-hmm. And we have nothing to worry about ultimately. And we know that anyway, whether this is the end times or not. But So all this stuff coming together, it could possibly be. So that comforts me.
That's the only thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello, John Lavender, on the chat room. We appreciate you listening in. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Amiable.
That was it. That
Prof.
was
Ed.
my
Prof. Eric.
encouragement.
Prof. E.
There.
We're going to Prof. E for sure. Prof. E.
I've got a long answer and I got a short answer. I'm going to share the short answer.
Okay.
When in doubt, pray. Do not look for information on any media. Pray. Pray. Don't listen to friends who heard a source, quote unquote, PRAY with about 5 exclamation points. I don't know what's going to happen. I have reason to believe that there are some sinister things going on in offices and places where I did not grow up thinking that sinister things were happening. I grew up believing
Trusting your government.
in my doctor. I grew up believing in the government. I grew up believing especially local government because we knew them. So I'm not sure I can put my trust, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not sure I can put my trust in anybody.
No.
And this is personal. I'm saying this. The only people I can put trust in is my Lord and my pastor and my wife.
Don't put me in the same sentence, please.
Well, I'm just saying. I used to. There was a lot of people in that group, but
And your wife too. Please put your wife in that.
I put my wife in there.
He did.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he
I'm
did.
sorry.
And as a matter of fact, that was the last one, and I thought I enunciated that pretty distinctly.
I'm sorry.
Actually,
I apologize. Prof. LJ.
There are so many times I grew up being a very patriotic American. And I remember I miss Ronald Reagan so much. But the older I get,
good.
I mean, my kids never grew up feeling this warm, patriotic feeling about their country that I did. They haven't.
Really?
They have grown up being taught that it's a bad country.
Oh.
So here we go, and I just had something on social media about this because there are things coming out of media sources, and we're talking about educational organizations saying nasty things about homeschooling, saying nasty things about church, saying nasty things, and it's like it's factual. And the thing that's bothered me so much is how quickly people have just laid down their freedoms. They're like lemmings just running off. And they're so scared. And I go, I used to fear talking about end times and stuff. And I go, but I don't have to fear. I have security knowing where I'm going. Whereas some of these people, and then we have people that say that they're Christians and they're just as scared too. And I go, something's not right here. So just like with Eric, what Eric said about trusting your doctors and trusting the government and things like that, and thinking that there was more good people involved than bad. We're not the home team anymore. That's
a good way of putting it.
That's basically what's happened. We are not the home team. We are not, and then as that has switched, we still think that we should be accepted. And I go, no. I don't think that the Bible tells us that we are going to be the popular kid on the block. In fact, if anything, there's persecution coming, and I don't know that a lot of people that are believers are ready for it, So it's very sobering.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for it, but I mean, it's not like I haven't seen it coming a long way off. And all the signs have been there for 20 years.
But people haven't wanted to talk about it. Like if I bring it up with even family members sometimes. I go, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to
Believers?
Yeah, believers. They don't want to talk about it because it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncertain, and it scares them. It scares them.
Sure.
Just like seeing the movie I talked about, about the end times when I was 7 or 8, scared me. But I was 7 or 8 then. Now I'm like, okay, but I've been through more things. I've had experiences that have caused me to trust what I know God is capable of doing. I go, and I don't know, a meeting, you know what, this is kind of, it's along the lines, but when I was in Bible school, Richard Wormbrandt came to my class. Yeah. And that just made such a difference to me. And him telling us, he had the bottoms of his feet beat so bad, they had no padding left. And he had to sit down. And he looked at us and he said, do you know that the Christian youth in Russia are praying for you? And we were like taken back. Why? Because you don't know. You're not willing to suffer for Christ. Your faith is not strong enough that you are willing to go through some of the things that we've gone through. So that was really, I think for me, very sobering. I always look back at that. It was something else.
So we are going to tackle two main topics here, and we'll go for as long as we need. We're going to tackle the first subject, President Trump and his tweets as it pertains to the shutdown and the governors fighting him. Well, is it safe to say fighting? But the governors giving some pushback on it. So here's a clip.
I, along with fighting a biological war, I do not have time to involve myself in Twitter wars.
That will probably take longer than a 2-word tweet.
I know we are doing the right thing, and what we're doing is saving lives.
I wonder if you have any response to that from the president urging people to push back like that.
I would just simply say that as the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, I, along with this staff, is fighting a biological war. I do not have time to involve myself in Twitter wars. I will continue to make sure that I do everything that I can to keep Virginians safe and to save lives.
What is your message back to the president and those protesters outside your house?
Well, I tried to deliver it myself. I tried calling the last couple hours to the president and the vice president. I got no return. My first responsibility is the protection of Minnesota's people. I just don't have time to try and figure out why something like that would happen. When I called to ask, what are we doing differently about moving towards getting as many people back into the workforce without compromising the health of Minnesotans or the providers? And that will probably take longer than a 2-word tweet, but I think there's a responsibility to tell us that. I'd like to know what they think we could have done differently, because again, we're leading as we were asked. We flattened the curve. We've built up our PPE. We've kept Minnesotans alive, and we're moving people back into the workforce in a safe manner. I would argue we're doing everything that they're telling us to do, but the difference is I actually have to do it here. We actually have to do it here and deliver.
All right, that's the governors that you saw pushing back on our president. So I'm going to ask the question. When Trump tweets, liberate New York, liberate Michigan, liberate Minnesota, telling the elected officials in New York, get off your behind and work, liberate your people, Prof. E., is President Trump fomenting rebellion?
I'm going to say yes and no. Okay. I'm going to say no because I think there's a basis for what he's doing. And that basis is a document that was written that I thought everything regarding this country was based on. Mm-hmm. And the first 3 words of that document don't say anything about any level of government. It doesn't say anything about who should do what at what point. It says 3 words. You know what those 3 words are? Mm-hmm. We the people. And that's what's happening right now. It over and above Democrats against Republicans, Republicans against Democrats, above governors against the president, president against the governors. You have something that is pretty, I think it was pretty spontaneous. And people said, look, you know what, guess what? I've had enough. Mm-hmm. And they determined where the base of the problem is, and they've gone after them.
Now I'm going to play the advocate. Right. We don't.
You do good about. You do that good.
We're going to play the advocate here because I'm going to try to get into Corky Euphoric's mind.
Okay.
All that may be true, Prof, but when the President of the United States looks at governors in their own state and say, liberate your state, as though the governors of those states are somehow oppressing or.
But they are.
Okay, but okay, if they are, is the president fomenting rebellion? I mean, so
Sure.
if the people in the governor's state burn down the governor's mansion and goes on some sort of violence, is the president responsible? Is that what he's trying to do?
No, I don't think that's what he's trying to do.
And I think you leapt immediately to like an armed rebellion type, an armed rebellion, as opposed to, I was thinking, a protest,
Yeah.
which is exactly
But
what
they're doing
happens.
like what Hong Kong did. They're suppressing people from saying what they think is right, and so you're suppressing people from vocalizing their opposition to what's going on. That's what they're doing.
But when you have, again, just playing the advocate, when you have T-shirts in Michigan that's protesting, and those T-shirts say, give me liberty or give me death.
Well, that's a quote
You
from
know-
our
you know
past.
why
That's
they're
an
saying that?
historic.
From Patrick Henry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Patrick
right.
Henry.
Yeah.
You know why they're saying
And you know what followed that? It's the Revolutionary War.
Right.
Where there was a lot of
But
violence.
what were you saying just a little while ago? Even a couple years ago, things were so divided. So it wasn't
yeah.
Trump that did it. Trump is he's.
So is he doing? Here's my take. I think he is. The question is it warranted? And do you see what I'm saying?
Well,
He is
I think the
warranted.
three of us are in agreement that he is encouraging people to speak up and protest.
I don't think he's telling them to go out and be
no,
violent, though.
I don't think he's promoting.
I mean, they'll
violence.
probably label it that way.
Most of us have
Well, you know
been
that's
in
what the
a
media's
house.
going to spin it.
Media's always-
Most of us have been in a building that we call home for over a month,
Yep.
okay, with no sign of change.
But does that help? Does that help the situation if violence were to break out? Because, see,
I don't think he. I don't think he was.
but there's no
Again,
parameters.
not
When he-
violence.
hold-
None
hold-
of us are advocating
let's
violence.
call-
and I don't think he is either.
Let's call balls and strikes. Let's
Okay.
call balls and strikes. When he does tweet, he doesn't put a qualifier. I didn't see any qualifiers. Maybe you have. Let's be safe. But blah, blah, blah. I didn't see that. I didn't see that. When people are getting frustrated, you say liberate, as though they're in chains and oppressed.
Well, here's the
Relatively
thing.
speaking, and I got to say this.
Okay.
Relatively speaking, when you are told to stay inside for your safety, because all these people are going to die, and you look at the numbers,
Yeah.
and those numbers are nowhere close to the number dying.
And everything keeps changing.
And various people can compare those numbers to past viruses and flus where much more people have died and nobody changed anything. This country has been stopped. Everything has stopped. Gambling stopped. Sports have stopped. Everything has
Not
stopped.
everything.
No.
Not
abortion,
government jobs.
Oh,
not abortion,
yeah,
not
no,
weed
yep.
sales, not liquor
And
sales.
see the people on top are going to be able to ride this wave out. They can actually do it, but the small businesses, the people that have worked so hard to have
Still the
business,
foundation of this
some of
country.
those people will
Exactly.
never.
That's most
never,
Americans.
Yes.
Living paycheck to
Yes.
paycheck. And it makes me so mad, and I don't know, I heard it today, so this is not my idea, but don't you dare tell them their job is not essential, because their job is essential to them and their family.
Yeah, it
And
is.
I'm aghast at what is going on.
Let me be clear. Let me be very clear. I'm trying to get into the minds of those who are pushing back. I'm not saying I agree with this. You know me. I'm not saying I agree. As a matter of fact, I think I'm to the right of all three of y'all. But I'm just trying to get into the mindset of those of the stuff I see on Twitter, on our page. I'm trying to get into their mind back. So I'm going to push back according to them. Okay, people? I'm not saying I believe this. And Charles says, I like Charles was the last time. He said this is liberal propaganda. So I'm just taking their arguments and I'm throwing it back at you. Again, I'm not saying I believe this, but so I'm gonna put my advocate. What I'm trying to best. Go ahead.
I want to bring something up that we had talked about earlier about the education. So we've got all these people that.
I'm sorry.
Education. Where's the education for some of the people that are pushing back on this? They've been educated
Yeah.
in our systems
Yep.
that have been I'm sorry. I think I sat and I had this
Agreed.
interaction with someone, and my kids went to public school, but if I had to do it over, I would have changed a lot of things that I did, and I would have pulled them out, because I think some of the things, look at even the state of Illinois, when you think about what's in place for the governor during times of these kind of situations, none of it has been followed.
No.
It is completely.
Okay.
So if you're overstepping your power and your bill, then you're going to get some backlash. That's what happened in our early founding of this country.
Advocate hat. Who started all of this? Did Governor Cuomo start the shutdown? Did Governor Newsom? Who started the shutdown?
President Trump did.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. President Trump started it. So who's to blame when it comes to this shutdown? The governors or the president? Because now it seems like advocate hat, right? Now it seems like you all are trying to whitewash the president as though he did nothing wrong.
No. No, but you know what? Look who he's listening to. Look who he's listening to, too. You've got a couple doctors up there that are connected.
Well, whose fault is that? The president chose those two doctors, did he not?
In my personal opinion, I think he was probably duped, and honestly, I think he has bungled this every step of the way. And I was listening to because I have the press conference on every night. He is still, the focus is number of cases and ventilators and the medical aspect. I think he's still bungling it. I think when he shut things down, it was such a radical thing to do. He needed to have the end in sight when he shut it down. What are the parameters for opening up again? And keep that in front of the public's eye every single step of the way, because that should have been the goal.
Advocate hat. Well then, Prof. Abby, what you're saying, if what you're saying is true, it seems like this is a diversion tactic. If he started this, if you're saying he bungled it the whole way, then why are you now, or is Trump now trying to shift the blame to his bungling to the governors?
Well, I think the governors took it and doubled down on it.
Yeah.
But let me say this too.
But Trump started it.
Yes, but the governors still bear responsibility as well.
Okay,
they took it even further. But let me say this, because I heard him tonight. He said there's a country, and he had to be talking about Sweden, because Sweden is the one country.
Who, Trump?
Yes.
Okay.
The one country that hasn't done this. And he said, and there's something about their death rate being through the roof or something. That's a lie. Sweden is doing just fine.
I never heard that. That's not on any of the news that I saw.
I'm just saying.
Where is it?
And I love a lot of what President Trump has done, and I love the way he stands up against the left, mostly. But it's a lie. That was a lie.
I have to bring in
He's
Charles's.
covering his
Okay.
rear end.
I have to bring in Charles's tweet here because he was in with the last tweet. Charles says this. Yep. As I mentioned in the last live, Trump is a pawn for a bigger play. He listens and trusts too easily.
Yep.
Yes, I think he's naive
Well,
Whoa.
about the level of evil, and
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And now I'm giving him the benefit of the
Yes,
doubt that
I
he's
was just
not.
about to say
but
that, Prof.
I
Andy. You're
can't
giving
cover
him
up for
big
his lies.
benefit.
I can't. I'm not going to cover up for his lying. Okay, or make apologies for that. But I do think he underestimated the lengths to which people would go.
We're still better off with him being the guy in
Oh,
charge.
well, then the other side, there's no
Who else
question.
would you put?
Oh, you look like the cat who swallowed the canary, Pastor James.
No,
What do you want to
this is
say?
Listen. Oh man, am I pronouncing this right? Iisotkh.
Ilsaka.
Ilsaka. Tell me if I'm pronouncing this right. He says Trump has always said he listened to the advice of the experts and shut it down. Let me say this,
Yep.
Ilsaka. In the first year, got it. Second year, I may give you a pass. After the third year, Trump should have known. Most of the people that go into a room with him, he can't trust. They've been leaking for 3 years. I mean,
But this is a
people in his
medical thing.
own
Isn't this a
cabinet
little
was
bit
going
different
after him.
than-
Okay, but
But it's the same liberal left.
Well,
it's the same.
hang
it's
on
the
a
same
second.
people
I-
who said we'd be underwater in 2012 and 2000 with Al Gore. It's the same people. Dr. Deborah and what's his other Fauci.
Right.
It's the same dudes using the same
But-
data from the same statisticians. I'm sorry. I didn't trust him from the beginning. Remember? I
Oh,
didn't
me.
trust him from the beginning.
Me either.
So
but
Trump is
but you know what? No, what?
No.
Here,
No.
let me make a general point.
okay.
Doctors should not be in charge of this.
No.
Doctors should give information, and then you should have somebody who can look at the whole situation, and you should get information from
Balls and
economists.
strike, Abby. Who put the doctors up there? You
I
should have never
agree.
put 'em
I'm
up there.
disagreeing with what he has done. These
Okay, all right,
doctors should never have been in charge of this. You have to have someone who you can have experts and get information from them, but you need somebody who's going to take a look at the whole picture and
think Trump-
not just focus on health.
I think Trump has been in charge. I think his problem is he put these doctors up here in front of the whole news, and every time, first time I saw, I didn't even know who they were first before I did research on them. Deborah and Fauci.
Birx.
Birx. And I said this before. When a doctor walks into the room, he never gives the worst diagnosis
Yes.
to his patient.
Absolutely.
He never does that. If you walk in and you say, Prof E, Prof LJ, your child could possibly die. But it's a small chance of that. No doctor ever does that because once you hear that, you're emotional.
Right.
No doctor will ever do that. These jokers from the beginning got on that stage and was talking about the 2.5 million and all that stuff with glee and smiles on it. They were holding back their glee because they felt so important and everybody in the country was hanging off of their every words. They were happy getting up there. Trump should have never put them up there. He should have never put them up there, and he should have never said, give this 2.2 million, because people were freaking out when they said 2.2 million, and he shut it down. First year, second year, third year, Trump should have been more cautious around the people that he listened to and all the other stuff. Yes, it was a different crowd, but man, I don't know if I would have trusted those guys. And he should, I think, reflecting now,
You follow the relationships from before too, and you really know that you shouldn't be
and,
following.
Yes.
and that's my,
That's,
and maybe,
that's scary. But you know what?
wait, hold on, Prof. LJ.
Yeah.
You did the research. You said it. Follow the relationships
And the money.
and follow the money. You're telling me your president wasn't smart enough to do that before you put him up there on that board? You figured it out.
Oh, I didn't figure out until recently because other people are researching it and putting it out there. But here's the other.
You should have researched it before you put him
I
up there on
agree.
that stage.
I agree. And my biggest concern from the time he came into office was get rid of all the deep state people. We better figure out who they are and start
Yes,
all
yes.
over.
From the first year. And they were part of it.
I know.
These two jokers are part
I
of it.
know.
They've served multiple presidents. Which
Yeah.
means
Yes.
They've been up there a long time.
I
So
know.
there's two ways to look at
Uh-oh.
it.
Chad M said, isn't Dr. Fauci Hillary's doctor? Can we?
Oh, I don't even know about
Man, I
that.
didn't even hear about that.
No.
He says, I'm not sure, but I feel like I've heard that
No, but
before.
he's connected.
Not sure.
He's connected with Bill Gates and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is connected with the Clintons and the Epstein and all this.
And the WHO.
And the WHO. There's
Which one, Fauci?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And see, what got me was as soon as he had been up in front of one or two news conferences, then he's talking to Steph Curry. He's talking to all of these.
Who?
Fauci.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's
it's-
making his rounds.
He liked the camera.
Yeah, he did.
Exactly.
It's important.
So if he knows that if he says something else astounding, people are going to hear it, and people are also going to remember who said it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for Burks. Burks got up there. I'll never forget it. She got on, I think it was one of the morning shows, and said, I could basically quote this. She said, if we do all of the social distancing and putting it on our Facebook, everything, if we do everything perfect, we are still going to have 100,000 to 200,000 deaths.
I think it was at least 200, she said, right?
Well, she said 100,000 to 200,000.
Okay.
By now.
And we were supposed to be overwhelmed the 15th and 16th. It's April 20th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Those two jokers don't get up on the stage now.
They don't? I wonder why.
If I'm Trump.
Because there's 40,000. And then they blamed it, they blamed it on the numbers. They blamed it on the model. It wasn't their fault at all. It's the model. And when you get the data, you change the
And
model.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. The news and the media outlets and all this are doing this. If you walked into a movie theater and cried fire, you'd have a felon on your record. But that they can go up there and cry fire and put everyone in a panic, and people are mad at us if we don't stand 6 feet away from them. And I go,
Because all they report is the death.
yes, they don't.
Exactly. Exactly.
And incorrectly the deaths.
But
Hold on.
no.
Go ahead.
I was going to say those deaths need context.
Yes.
And they are never given
No.
context.
Well,
It's
there
just
was
a
one
death
that
toll.
had nothing to do with coronavirus at all, and that got really big publicity. There's more of them.
Hat back on.
Uh-oh.
You all are starting to blame the media and blame Fauci. The question was, is Trump irresponsible for going after these governors?
No.
Okay. Tell me why, Profi. So you think Trump should ratchet up the Twitter wars with the governors?
That's who he is.
Yeah, but
That's
it's
who he
right.
is.
But it's right though. Yeah, of course, that's who he is.
More often than not, it's,
With this
it's not
specifically,
right.
going after the governors, is he right?
When you have governors that are consistently complaining,
Mm-hmm.
when you have governors that are consistently blaming him for things that are actually, it's like this. If you're going to be the authority, then you got to take the responsibility. That is what the president is saying right now. You're saying you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have the other. Oh, by the way, excuse me, you didn't mention that you have presidents have, not have things in stockpile that you don't want to use because you think you're going to need it later. Okay? That's one.
But are you comfortable with the president using the rhetoric, liberate Minnesota, liberate?
Absolutely, yes. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when he says liberate, he is speaking, he didn't start it. That's what you have to, he did not start this. When he said liberate Minnesota, they had already gone to the governors.
So he's egging them on.
Yeah, he is. Now what have they done to be egged on? They have shown that they're tired.
Yeah.
They've shown that after thinking about this, since they had all this time to think about it, you know, that they said, wait a minute. Somebody actually went and read a constitution and said, wait a minute, she has only got X amount of time to declare an emergency. And then after that, somebody's got to do something. So I'm not only looking at the governors, I'm looking at the state legislators as well.
So my hat on. When this turns to violence because of the liberate, you're comfortable.
think you can
you
blame
and your
him for
president
that.
starting
Blame
these,
that.
these conflicts.
No, and
You're
you-
saying
No.
when.
Government and people.
You're saying when. And I'm saying, well, you might need to take the hat off. but because I think it's a if. I think it's a big if, because since Charlottesville, all these protests with the exception of Antifa have made it a point not to be violent. That goes to the protest in Virginia about the Second Amendment, and all of these protests.
Give me liberty or give me death.
Oh,
You know
take
what?
that hat off.
I got that hat on because you get to a certain point, you're like, you know what?
If I can't live free, why should we?
No, exactly. I think somebody said that on her Facebook page.
You know what? Okay, before he ever tweeted all this, Ohio was already protesting.
Right.
And there were people right up near the doors of the governing building there, and they were saying, "You're not essential, we are essential." And I thought, you know what? Because we're here, the government can keep doing what they're doing. They just take so much money, vote themselves vacations, pay raises, and I go, it gets to the point where you go, it's about time it's we the people. And I don't think they're violent at this point.
We might have to have Charles Simpson Sr. as a guest one night. Here's what Charles says. He said these two things. He says the mortality prediction went from 500,000 to 20,000. This is definitely a situation
To
of shouting
20,000.
fire
To
in a movie
20,000?
theater.
Yeah, shouting fire in a
sort of.
movie theater.
Yeah,
It
sort of.
sure
Yeah,
is.
it was high. It was really high.
Yeah.
He brought it
Oh,
up.
I know, but to 20,000
'Cause it's
because
40.
it's at 40.
Yeah,
It's 40. It's 40.
I think it
Maybe
went to
it's 40.
60.
It's
But no,
40 today.
It was low. It was 40 today, but it's the predictions. But now,
I never heard
here's
that
what
one, but okay.
Here's what he says that y'all might not. He says, "Remember what I said in the last live," because he was commentating when we last live. He says Obama radicalized the left, and Trump will radicalize the right.
That's
And so
interesting.
he's saying that those two figures will polarize. If I'm Charles, tell me if I'm telling right. It will polarize the country so much, it will lead inevitably
I think it's already
to a
polarized.
civil war.
I don't
agree.
think he has
I agree.
anything to do with it. I think his
But Trump
rise.
is-
No, I think that he's there because of the polarization. People
Oh,
even
yeah,
in the
absolutely.
even the last election, they were not saying who they were voting for. They were letting everyone go on. You'd see the news and all these pundits going back and forth, and you saw them melt down on that election night, not knowing what happened. No, because you don't know what Heartland USA feels.
And let me say this. I think you are right. I think a lot of people on the right swallowed a lot of Trump's
Yes. That was me.
Mistakes.
I did not
No,
vote
not
for him in
mistakes.
the primary.
Yeah, I didn't vote for the
was
primary
not
either.
excited about. I was excited about beating Hillary. Oh, I will not lie.
A lot of people swallowed Trump's scars and shortcomings because for the first time, they saw someone who would put an aura behind their name, who wouldn't be so weak and passive
Amen.
and cave
Yes.
to the Democrats.
Because the Boy Scouts
Okay.
weren't working.
Yeah, so they swallowed that. But if you'd have told me 10 years ago, someone who's pro-LGBTQ was going to win the Republican nomination, I wouldn't have believed you. Someone with Trump's very liberal sexual views was going to sweep the South, I would have said you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. But he did it. Let's be honest. He did it because a lot of people swallowed stuff. Because Trump, going to Charles's point, he radicalized. Obama, say whatever you want to say. Obama was an ideologue. Obama died for the liberal causes. He did things, we got him on tape saying it was illegal for him to do when it came to DACA. He did it anyway. And so the right said, we want an Obama on our side who's going to do what Obama did on the right. And then here came Trump. And that's, I think, what Charles is saying, radicalized the two.
Now,
Go ahead.
I'm going to respectfully disagree.
Go ahead.
And this is why. We were just talking about Pelosi and Trump.
Okay.
And I had a conversation with a friend of mine probably a couple of hours ago. We were talking about the days, weeks, months before the Civil War, and the fact that the Congress of the United States of America was indicative of the country.
Yes.
Meaning that there was a fight, a knockdown, drag out fight in Congress.
On the Senate floor.
On the
a man
Senate
was
floor.
almost caned to death.
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That event did not cause a change in that body until after the Civil War. In fact, it was probably one of the things that instigated the Civil War.
It was heading towards it. It was marching towards the Civil War, and that
So
happened.
let's go back to Charlottesville again. It was relatively shortly after the election.
Mm-hmm.
If the Civil War predictors were accurate, that should have instigated further violence. It did the opposite.
I'm sorry. What?
Charlottesville. There was enough violence between left and right at that event that could have been the event that served as a catalyst for future violence.
Well, no. I thought it was between you talking about what the racists?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were white supremacists. I wouldn't
that's
call
not
that
the
right.
They weren't
That's
indicative
not
of the
conservative
right. You wouldn't say they weren't a right, were they?
No, that's
Yes, they did say they were on the right.
No.
That's what
No,
they said,
that's
but they
what
weren't
said,
truly
but
the
they
right.
weren't truly
Okay,
the right.
but my point is that should
Got
have
twisted,
that
too.
could have that could have
got twisted, I agree.
served as an igniter.
No, but because I think the racists aren't the true right. The people marching saying, give me liberty and give me death, that's the true right.
Well, right.
The
Well,
people that's
exactly. And I think there's more than one race saying that right now.
Say it again?
There's more than one race saying, give me liberty.
Oh, no.
Give me
That's what I'm
death.
saying. It doesn't break down racial lines.
Right.
It's
Right,
see,
exactly.
Before the Charlottes was a racist. These are blacks, whites, but more conservatives.
Right.
Against can we say the liberals saying stay in your house?
Or don't buy
The
your
left.
Your
The left,
Don't-
absolutely.
Well, buy your grass seed or
Yeah,
I'm like
yeah.
this is absolutely
How
ridiculous.
dare you not wear a mask?
Yeah.
And this I got put my hat's back on.
Oh, boy.
Oh please.
This is the difference between the left and the right. And you all's president is egging his own. That was the original question. That Trump is pushing us towards violence and rebellion, which will lead to civil war.
No, I don't believe that.
No.
You don't think it's Tweety doing it? Okay.
Absolutely not.
And then we're going to switch to the church. Where should the church go from this? Who wants to go first? Or should I go first with ending this section? I'll go first. Hat is off. This is me.
Nice to see you again.
I honestly think Trump's tweets are further dividing the country. But the country was already divided.
Yes.
I think the civil strife, which can lead to a civil war, started with the open coup, with the Russia hoax. I think Trump is being who he is and what he's doing, because I think I said this before. I think I said this to you, Abby. The left is not going to back down.
Nope.
And what you've seen is they're going to keep upping the ante, upping the ante, waiting for Trump to back down. And this is radical. And if Trump doesn't back down, how does this end? The left is showing you how crazy they can be and how far they will go. The left is going to the point shutting down for 6 months. What is that, California?
It was the mayor
be a
of
waste
Los Angeles.
The mayor of
kind
Los
of hinted
Angeles.
at that,
6
I
months.
believe.
It's gonna be a
Cuomo-
wasteland.
This morning.
Governor Cuomo is saying we're not going to open up until you give us money. That's extortion to Trump. Illinois, I think they said they just had a vote. They voted against the small business deal.
voted?
Oh,
I
well,
just
no.
saw that. I
Yeah,
saw one of
the
the
it was
Yes.
about, who's Sean Caston? What is he?
Yep.
He's a,
Jenny Ives,
Jenny Ives going against
who's running for Congress here,
Okay.
put it out that the Illinois House members voted against
or they
giving
won't
more
vote
money.
for this.
Okay, wait a minute.
For
Wait,
the
wait,
money
wait.
for
Until-
small
until
business.
Illinois gets a
and-
bailout.
Okay, wait a minute.
That's crazy.
Wait, point of order.
Do you
Point
know
of
all-
order. Sean Caston is a U.S. congressman.
Yes.
Yes.
Are we talking about the Illinois congregation of the U.S. Congress, or are we talking
Yes.
about the state
Yes.
legislature?
We're talking about
No,
federal.
federal,
They ran
okay,
out of
federal.
money in the
Yeah.
SBC fund for the small
Yes,
business.
okay.
They ran out of like in a day or two. It was so
Oh, right.
fast.
They're out of money. Right. Exactly.
And so the Democrats won't let them have any more so far.
Do you notice that all?
I'll just finish
No,
the
but
thought.
they
And-
voted until the Illinois is saying we're not going to vote
no,
for this.
they didn't vote. They're
They're saying they won't
waiting.
vote.
We'll vote for that
If we get a bailout.
Yeah, if you
Which is
bail
extortion.
Illinois out.
But that's why
But
all these.
the left-
That's why all these states did this. They did it
That
because
could be part of it.
they have ruined their finances.
Yep.
And they're going to use. They're going to point out all the president's ills until they get the money to cover
Bail
what-
out their
Can I-
corruption.
Now watch this. Will the left back down?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm putting my dumb hat on. Where's this money coming from?
Yeah.
They're making
bringing
it,
it.
Eric.
Come on,
Thin air. Listen,
I
where
didn't
the
know.
first- where the
I
first-
didn't know
where the
we
first
could
round came
say
from.
that.
Where the first round came from, out of
Right.
thin air.
Right. Okay. I just.
Fort Knox, just like Bugs Bunny
I
used to go and check it out.
Just wondering. See, that's the problem.
That's
Everybody-
one problem.
Everybody
Yeah, it's a big
knows
problem.
So let's.
that this money's coming from thin air. Well, since it's coming from thin air, I want all I can get.
You got to pay it sooner or later. But here's my point. Here's my point, and then I'll go around. We'll end this. The left is not going to back down. If Trump doesn't back down, how does this end? It's not pretty. Yeah, it's not pretty.
Well,
It's not pretty.
I guess you're
It's
right
not pretty
because
even now.
No, it's not.
the right's
but
not going.
it's going to get
The
worse.
right's not going to. I mean, if the right backs down, if the right
Yeah.
backs down,
Yeah.
it's called socialism.
Yep. They're already forcing
So-
it.
Eric, that's what they've wanted for many years. That's what they're doing. But listen, and they're conditioned for this because the Republicans have backed down for the last 30
Well,
years.
guess what?
Some of them are not.
Nobody. I don't think.
But Trump's a different beast.
I don't think there have been so many people that are willing to say, I will die before I go up under that. Now, you're saying the left won't back
Eric.
down. Are they that serious? Because what they want is power. What they want is control.
Yes.
Usually the hungrier people always win. I think the hungrier people on the other side win when they're saying I'd rather die first.
Here's the hole in your argument. I hope you're right, but I think you're wrong.
Okay.
Here's the hole in your argument. We've accepted that a person with male plumbing is a woman, for the most part in our
That's
country.
the other reason I'm saying
If
People will die
if you
first.
swallow that,
People
you'll
are
swallow
so
anything.
tired of that.
Think so? I hope you're right.
You know what?
Who's next? Go ahead,
the-
Prof. LJ. You go ahead and final word.
You know what?
on this.
A lot of the conservative voices that I have followed, not only are they the funniest people out because they still have a sense of humor, the other ones do not. No. Because you have completely taken all the humor out of everything because you're offending everyone. But they also are getting sick and tired of the whole thing that tells you that this is science, like what you're talking about. And we have people that have Walt Heyer, who has been going the rounds, circuits. Walt Heyer, you should know this name.
Yeah, I don't know.
He is he 70?
Former
He's
transgender,
almost, well,
yeah.
he was a,
Oh, yeah,
he was a
he's at
former,
least-
He's what?
He was
Former
a former
transgender.
transgendered.
Oh,
And
right,
he,
okay.
at 4 years of age,
Oh,
his grandmother dressed him up in a dress, and he was going very meticulously through why it's wrong. And he goes, and I'm coming from a place of pain. I mean, he's gone through it. He says, and what we're doing is he's going through.
Amen.
And
Sure is.
we're always going to see the other side. I think there are truly liberal people that believe this stuff until they're faced with facts. And some of them are changing their minds.
I hope you're right.
Some of them are changing their minds. 2 Democrats already that have come out and said we're supporting Trump. One from Michigan, one from Georgia, just with this whole thing. And when you see what the media, and he's not backing down with these reporters, I mean, it's like unbelievable. But I go, it's a spiritual battle at this point.
It is.
And until the church starts praying down that line of and speaking truth and not being afraid to take a couple punches. I was just telling Abby before we started, I'm like, I'm not very popular with some of the people that I'm friends with on social media anymore. And I used to say, oh, it doesn't bother me, and it really did. But I'm going, you know what? I think I'm getting to another level of being okay in my own skin because I'm taking it for the team. I go, no, this is for God's team. Even though we're not the home team anymore, this is truth. And it doesn't matter how many degrees you have or how much you believe this. It is still factual. This is the way God has created us, and you can flip it any way you want. I know the end of the story.
I'm going to read the comments that's on there after we get the last two. I want to say this too. I did see on the internet talking about transgenderism. Cy Rogers, we know who he is.
Yes.
He passed today. Cy Rogers died today. So it seems like he was one of the guys I really learned from when it came to the transgender issue as it pertains to. I don't know.
Wasn't that old, I don't think.
No, he wasn't that old. But
he said, famously in my mind,
yes,
the opposite of homosexuality is
yes,
not heterosexuality, it's surrender.
Yeah, and he was really good. Prof. Eric, last statements on this topic, and then we'll switch to what the church should do.
All right, well, this honestly is not, and I'm glad you brought up at the end the transgenderism issue, because you will find people on the left side of the other party saying this one term, and that is speaking truth to power. They like to say that. The problem with that is this: the truth they're speaking to power is a lie. And that's at that point, you have to realize that this is not an issue of right and left or Democrat or Republican. Mm-mm. This is a fight between good and evil. Mm-hmm.
How many people see that?
It does not. That's a good question. My answer is it does not matter. Mm-hmm. Right is right. Mm-hmm. Whether the
it matters if it's just the four of us in this room.
But there's a guy in Scripture. His name is Gideon, and he had the same situation. And this is where some of the things I've heard and read, they might have been trite. Mm-hmm. They might have been nice, but there was truth to it. And that is, if God is on your side, you're in the majority. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm standing on.
I hear you. And there was a Gideon, there was a guy named Jeremiah, too. When God says judgment is coming, I agree with you. Prof. Abby, last words on the subject.
All right. Well, bottom line, I didn't take President Trump talking about liberating these states as promoting violence. That didn't even enter my mind. I just thought about
not your mind.
Yeah, I'm telling you how I took it. Mm-hmm. And Prof. LJ and Prof. Eric didn't take it that way either. Mm-hmm. So we upvote you.
We don't sit. And here's the thing. Most of the things that I talk about in the news it has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with what are the principles that are being pushed forward. And I'm looking at some of the people, even on the Republican ticket, that I go, which team are they on?
Oh, absolutely.
It's terrible.
Yep. But you notice you never look at the Democratic side and say which team are they on?
Oh, well, wait. We need to look a little. You need to look a little closer because they are not on the same team.
Who? Some of the Democrats? What Democrats you wonder whether or not they Democrats because they vote for the Republicans so much?
No, it's not whether or not they're going to vote for the Republicans. It's that they're not going to vote for their team because...
You mean in this instance?
Right.
Okay. All right. So let me get to some of the comments, and I want you all to answer. Let me go back up here. Charles says violence of the people will not be the result. Tyrannical power is the result. That's what they want, Charles. But I think in a good old USA, with the Second Amendment, it's going to be some violence.
Yeah. If it comes to that, yeah, it is.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get tyrannical power in this country without some blood being shed.
You got somebody who said, quote, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s.
Yep.
And you didn't hear a lot of response because there was no need. Because those individuals who have AR-15s are not going to give them up and will use them until they can't be used anymore.
Here's what Charles says. Charles says, Trump is fuel to an already burning blaze.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that.
I agree with that.
Can't argue with that.
No.
I think
He likes to throw gas in the fire. There's
he does.
no question.
He does. That's not always wrong, though.
No.
But he is
He fights back.
Political theater. If you have a job, go to your job. If you have a school, go demand it open. If you own a business, open it seriously. So we have someone who is saying, forget the government, let's go ahead and do it. That's political theater. Then you have Charles again. The magical money tree is the West Wing of the White House. I agree. I agree, Charles. Isaka, the only thing Trump has is a bully pulpit. He has to use it to combat the fairness and I think you mean the unfairness and 90% negative coverage.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
No one.
He's
will,
doing a pretty
no
good
one
job
will
with
debate
some of
that.
those reporters.
Oh, that's what I. You know what? The coverage of the COVID, I tune out. It's when he says, "I'll take questions." That's
Get the popcorn.
Get the popcorn ready.
Yeah. See this dreamer cometh. Says it's not pretty. It is not. Charles says we're going to see much more centric views between Dems and GOP. Keep in mind, Israel just combined their two political parties recently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you have the two countries that are trying to work together, I don't know. Now that I think about this, do we see the Democrats being logical and coming to the center?
Oh my God.
There is a faction of the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how many there are.
They'll be leaving their party, I think.
That are
You
more,
think so?
Yeah, there might be another party.
Mm-hmm.
Because the left, they're still
Dems
essential.
always know how to coalesce. They coalesce behind a president who called a press conference with the express purpose to lie to the American people. I did not have sex with that woman. Lost his law license. The body count is how big now? And they still gather behind this man. I don't see the Democrats. The Democrats, I don't know, man. I think they got
any of them that
some
have any
powerful
conscience
stuff
will
behind.
not
Well,
be
they-
staying
I
with their
think-
parties.
But you could have said that 20 years ago.
Yeah, but how could you be
Right?
with him now
I
if you had
know.
any conscience?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's a faction that has no intention of supporting the presumptive presidential candidate. But that's not my problem.
Charles goes on, there's only one truth that matters. He is the way, the truth.
Mm-hmm.
John 14.
Amen.
Correct, Charles.
Amen.
This dreameth cometh, good and evil, that's what's up. Charles again, no violence, just chaos. He's answering us. No
Yeah.
violence, just chaos. And out of chaos comes order. And I'm
Yep.
assuming he's meaning the one world
Yeah.
order. Yes, Charles, I can't agree with you
That's why they're
on
doing
that one.
this.
There will be violence, but ultimately the goal is chaos. I agree. From chaos, the world will be screaming for peace.
Yep.
We know where that false peace will come from. Absolutely. Charles, just one, rhinos already hold liberal views and hold a majority stage in today's RNC. A true conservative base would have abolished Roe v. Wade a long time ago. Boy, Charles, we might have to find a seat here at the table for you, man. Because you're right. Yeah.
There's some other things coming up the pipeline, though. I don't know if you saw the things the other day about he brought up, what did Trump brought up some organization. It's something with a P, and it's one of the organizations that gives a lot of money to this HIV initiative in Africa, and gives a lot of money to the IH, what was the name of that? But I wish I could have seen the look on Dr. Burke's face when he brought it up, because she's connected with all this. And I think some of these people think they've duped him in a lot of ways, and he keeps bringing things out of his back pocket, which will be really interesting, because he's talking about investigations that are ongoing. And I wanted them to turn the camera to those people, because there's going to be more stuff coming.
I do want to read this before we go on to what should the church do. I forgot to read this earlier, but let me read it now. This might be a good way to end this. When the state tells you it's safe to go to Home Depot to buy a sponge, but dangerous to go and buy a flower, it's not about your health. When the state shuts down millions of private businesses, but doesn't lay off a single government employee, it's not about your health. When the state prevents you from buying cucumber seeds because it's dangerous, but allows in-person lottery ticket sales, it's not about your health. When the state tells you it's dangerous to go golf alone, fish alone, or be in a motorboat alone, but the governor can get his stage makeup done and hair done for 5 TV appearances a week, it's not about your health. When the state puts you in a jail cell for walking in a park with your child because it's too dangerous, but lets criminals out of jail cells for their health, it's not about your health. When the state tells you it's too dangerous to get treated by a doctor of chiropractic or physical therapy treatments, yet deems a liquor store essential, it's not about your health. And when the state lets you go to the grocery store or hardware store, but is demanding mail-in voting, it is not about your health. Please wake up, people. Abby, where did this come from? I want to give this person credit.
I don't. There was not a name on it, but I got it on Facebook.
I am going to be taking a picture.
Yep.
People are not going to like me.
Putting it up as well.
All right, so let's end this focused on the church. What should the church do at this point? Because here, for such a time as this, is a ministry of New Hope Community Church in Palatine, Illinois. New Hope Palatine Socialist Republic of Illinois. That's where we live. What should the church do? Let's focus on God's people. What should the church do? Who wants to go first? I'll go first. The church has to weigh some options. Romans 13, I read an article from a lawyer who said that in the United States of America, we'd have no king. It's a constitutional republic. That even when you swear in to the military, a political office, or even president of the United States, you swear an oath and you swear allegiance to the Constitution, not a man, not an office, it's to the Constitution. Constitutionally, I think governors have overstepped their bounds.
And not only constitutionally, but by their own laws, their own state
by their own
laws.
Even governors within their own state. I don't know you all people in Illinois. The governor of Illinois has broken Illinois law, right? We were reading. The governor could only give a stay-at-home order for 30 days. But once he files it, he has 48 hours to go get a court order to enforce it, correct, Abby?
Yeah, it was something to that effect.
Something
The
to that effect.
details
He didn't
are a
do
little.
it.
But
So by Illinois law, he's illegal. The churches cannot continue to abide by what are clearly illegal laws at the sake of sinning against God, who says we should assemble as a church on a regular basis, right? It was so telling the Tucker Carlson show when he interviewed the New Jersey governor, when he said, "Why did you keep the liquor stores open?" Oh, for mental health. Oh, wait a minute. So the liquor store you kept open for mental health, but you don't think someone's faith is important to their mental health? You shut down the faith. He had no answer. He had no answer. You have evil
Well,
people.
he did have an answer. Wasn't an answer, but he said I
don't know.
consulted with all the bishops or the
Yeah.
cardinals and
If you
so
want to call
on.
that an answer, it was foolishness.
And apparently
It
they're
was
all
foolish.
right with it.
Yeah, it was foolish. And he said,
They needed a vacation.
and Tucker Carlson says, "What gives you the authority to suspend the Constitution?" Well, that's above my pay grade, Tucker.
You the governor. Why would-
You did it, dummy.
That's
I'm
exactly
sorry, I
what he
shouldn't say that.
said.
I apologize. I shouldn't say that.
It was
But he did it. So
unbelievable.
you look like you didn't see for such a time as this one about the New Jersey governor.
Missed
You got to see
one.
it.
Well, I heard about the Mississippi governor.
No.
No, it was the mayor, Greenville.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah,
the
he-
Mississippi governor was the one who straightened out the
Oh, yeah,
Greenville
yes.
mayor.
Yes. Yeah. So I think the church has some decisions to make. Because the choice is going to be this: submit to what we know are illegal edicts, illegal laws, or submit to the Word of God and start meeting again and congregating. I think that's where the church is. Our church has some discussions to have, and we're going to make a decision. And all who call themselves believers are going to have to come up with go through the same process of decision making. Who's next? An encouraging word or something for the people of God to focus on. Abby?
Well, actually, it wasn't. It was just I was going to comment on what
Go
you
ahead.
were talking about
That's
with
fine.
churches remaining closed. So I don't wear a mask. I have yet to wear a mask, and I've come to the same conclusion as Lisa Joy here because it's perpetuating a lie, and it is perpetuating lawlessness, and I can't do that. If I love my neighbor, I just can't do that. And so I'm going to be writing a little something about that. I'm sure it will make me very popular.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll vote for you.
It's going to make you so popular, you're going to go to jail, Abby. But anyway.
Do you know what I was thinking of when we're thinking about all these things, and the sign of the times, and who would have known that when we started the new year that we'd be here in April in lockdown across the country. I was very proud of some of the states like South Dakota, and that lady
I love the mayor.
I love
her.
That governor was so
Known?
classy.
I vote for her.
Yeah.
I vote for her
Yeah,
over Trump. But
yeah,
anyway,
she
go
was
ahead. I'm sorry.
great. But I just thought, and then people are calling you out and saying that you don't care about people and, arguing. And I thought, oh my gosh. And as a kid growing up, there is one song that keeps coming back to me, besides a few other Keith Green songs that I really like too. But, we used to sing a song in church that it was the last verse was, "The cross before me, the world behind me. No turning back, no turning back." And I think, as a person of the church, we all need to be in that mindset that, this is such a temporary life. And eternity is in front of us. And so I know for me, this has really been a time for me to make sure that I'm listening to things that are uplifting. Obviously, we're in the midst of a really nasty thing, and I do keep abreast of things, much to the chagrin of people that don't want to hear from me. But I think about that, and I think, okay, what is the music we're listening to? Are we reading our scriptures on a regular basis? Are we praying? And I'll tell you, my prayer life has become a lot more active because of this. Because when there is trials and tribulations, you grow. It strengthens your faith, or we see what your faith is really made out of. One of the two. So, yeah.
Prophet.
I had a crisis of faith about 48 hours ago. How much of the truth should I tell?
As much as you want.
Just don't tell no lies.
Yeah, he doesn't tell lies.
I'm a government employee.
Yeah.
So, my question, my conversation was this, and my question ended up being the answer. My question was, well, Lord, how am I going to do this? Because if I leave it up to myself, I might get arrested. And how is that going to look, a government employee getting arrested? And like I said, my question was also my answer. I didn't get that job. The Lord gave me that job. So my answer is simply this, because see, my pastor said we were going to fast and pray. So I'm going to leave it up to the person who provided. Mm-hmm. If he provided once, he can provide again. And that is my encouraging word to my brothers and sisters out there. This is not easy. And I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't already know. However, we have an advocate with the Father, the Lord Jesus Christ. And if you believe in him, he will take care of you. Over and above all of the things we hear in the news, over and above the questions about who we can trust, we know we can trust him. And that's all I got to say about that.
One of my favorite sayings now, and I've ended a lot of shows this way, we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we know who holds tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And so, Prophet Abby, did you go, or did you want to say something else?
No, I think I said what I was going to say, and I think what you didn't mention there, Eric, was that you're thinking about if we start to come back as a church and meet in our sanctuary the same way we do every Sunday, and that's what we are praying and fasting about. And that's the worrying thing as a government employee. So.
Yeah. Okay. Tidy up, as we always try to do, is go back to the chat. People are so good to be with us. Want to at least get their stuff on here. Corker Euphoric. You were fortunate to meet Richard Rembrandt in person, Lisa
Yes,
Joy.
I was.
She says that. Yep. I'm interested in the article that you read for the lawyer about the Constitution in Romans 13. Is there a link? Let's try to see if we can put that link up there.
On this video?
Yeah, on this video.
Yeah.
I think you go into it and you put the details, and we'll put the link. So we'll try to put the link. I'll try to put the link up there real soon. Such a beautiful thing to hear from a man of God, to give God the glory. I think he was saying that to you, Eric. Yes. Eric has been a blessing to New Hope. Yes, he has. Great live discussion. Thank you, Charles. We're going to work on getting you a seat at the table some sort of way here real soon here. We thank you so much for being with the live stream. We've had more people on here tonight than all the other ones combined, so thank you for being here. We look forward to continually serving people on the internet, looking at the world through biblical lens, hopefully and prayerfully giving Jesus all the glory. Thank you so much. We will see you all later on.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
For such a time as this.
All right, we're done.
Yay.